These aren't carnitas tacos. Traditionally, carnitas are made by slow cooking pork meat, usually pork butts, pork skins, and buche. The meat is submerged in lard and cooked low and slow until tender. Think of it as pork confit, but that's not what I'm doing today. Instead, I'm going to try to incorporate some of those flavors carnitas are known for and cook it out on the grill. So welcome to my not carnitas taco video. Let's get started. We have a pork butt here that I'm going to debone. Take your boning knife and follow the edges of the bone. Now, sorry for the crappy view here, but just remember to follow the bone with your knife. Also keep in mind that some areas aren't flat and are a bit concave, so just let the bone guide you on where to cut. Now, I thought about cooking it whole like a standard pork butt, but I think breaking it down, chopping it up, is going to allow for a faster cook and a lot more flavor. Now, when I first got the idea to do this, I wrote everything out on how I planned to cook it. Then I did a search on YouTube, and I found out that Arnie Tech's carnitas video was very close to what I envisioned. Now, I still don't consider it to be authentic carnitas, but like I mentioned, I wanted a barbecue twist without the hassle of braising the meat in lard for the entire cook. So here we are, a not carnitas video for you all to enjoy and maybe inspire you to make it better. And there we have it. There's still a bit of meat on here, but I'm gonna boil this down with some onion, garlic, and create a broth that I can add later during the braising process. Next, I'm gonna cut this into chunks. First, I'll cut even thick strips, and then I'll double back and cut into smaller, even-sized chunks. I'll clean up some of the extra fat. As you can see, some of the chunks are bigger than the others, which is gonna be fine. Next, I'm gonna season. I'm not seasoning with a traditional barbecue rub. Instead, I'm putting on some Santa Maria style seasoning. This Santa Maria style seasoning is basically salt, pepper, and garlic. Remember, I don't want it to scream barbecue. I just want to add some savory note, touch of charcoal flavor. I'm going to be cooking today on the SNS kettle. Link to all equipment I'm using will be down in the description. I'm going to be using the SNS fire baskets in today's cook. For today's fire basket configuration, I'm going with one basket plus the water pan. Once I fill up the basket with some B&B charcoal, I'm going to add 1 quart of water. The water pan will help maintain temperatures and add a little moisture during the cooking process. Next, let's use a lighter cube to start up our charcoal. I'll stack the briquettes a little bit more so more of them light. As you can see, I'm not adding any wood chunks. Once lit, I'll move the charcoal a bit, place in the grate, and then cover. For vent settings, the top will be wide open. Bottom vents closed, but I'm setting that smoke hole to halfway open. I'm running at 250 and it's time to cook our pork butt. Let's place in all of our pieces. I'm trying to put in the thicker pieces closer to the heat and at the same time trying to leave a little space between each of the meats. The idea is to try to get even color all around. Let's cover and begin cooking. First thing I'm going to do is place some Coke in a spray bottle. My plan is to spritz every 30 minutes or so. Now, Coke is one of the ingredients used for carnitas, hence I'm using it here. This is the second layer of flavor that I'm going to add, and it's going to add a subtle sweetness to this pork. About 90 minutes later, I'm going to flip since the bottom isn't getting much color. For this part of the cook, the intention is to get a little browning on the meat. You can certainly skip this step and just sear your pork and immediately get into the braising process. But I really wanted to instill a little charcoal flavor before going into that step. I'll need to revisit this recipe soon, and I'm gonna have to try a few things, like searing first. So be sure to hit subscribe so you get notified when I drop that video. Let's cover and keep spritzing with Coke every 30 minutes. At some point, it'll have a nice color and it'll be time for the second part of the cook, the braising process. I'm gonna be braising the pork to finish the cook. I'll be laying down a bit of sliced onion, some pork lard, some fresh garlic, and some orange zest. I actually overdid it with the orange zest. I'd advise to maybe use a quart of this orange instead. The whole orange was just too much zest, and I could really taste it at the end. It was just a little bit overpowering. I'm gonna slice this orange and then add the juice to the pan. Orange is also very important for carnitas, so make sure you add it. But next time, I'm gonna try less zest and more juice and see how that works out. It's been about 4 hours total, and I'm very happy with the color. It's temping around 165 degrees, so it's still got a bit of time before it's for tender. Charcoal consumption is doing pretty well, and the water pan is doing a good job at helping maintaining temperature. It smells really good, but enough admiring. Let's get to the second part of our cook. Let's remove all of our pork pieces into the braising pan. We'll go ahead and pour the leftover cook that we used to spritz. And we'll put some of that broth I made from the bone and some of these leftover meat bits. Let's seal with aluminum foil, nice and tight. Let's place back on the grill. Let's close and let the braising begin. We are going to want it to get a lot hotter, so let's open up the vents and try to hit 275 to 300. Oh man, I totally forgot the next key ingredient, bay leaves. Now if you're keeping track, lard, coke, bay leaves, and orange are the main ingredients for a good carnitas cook. But oops, these aren't carnitas, right? So forget I even said that. Let's seal and cover again. Since I'm planning to make tacos, we need a good salsa. I'm making a salsa roja. We'll need 20 of the small tomatillos that we will boil in water. We call these tomatillos milperos. They are less tart than the bigger variety. So, if you dislike green salsa because it's just too sour for you, you should consider finding the smaller variety. I also need about 10 red dried chiles that I have toasted. You can use árbol. Use less if you don't like it to be too spicy. I'm using costeños that my mom grows and dries in her garden. They're like 3 times spicier than árbol, so a little goes a long way. Let's place the peppers in our blender along with a clove of garlic. Also add about a teaspoon of salt. Remember, you can adjust later. Let's add half of our tomatillos. Let's give it a good blend until super smooth. Now once smooth, let's pour out into our container and then blend the rest of our tomatillos. Give it more of a rough blend. I kind of like bit of chunky pieces in my salsa, so that's why I do it this way. Now once semi-blended, let's add it into the rest of the salsa and mix. Making sure to taste it and check for salt. Ooh, it's spicy, but super tasty. 3 hours later, these carnitas are ready to be removed. 7-hour total cooking time. That might seem like a long time, but it was mostly due to me cooking at a lower temperature. Next time, I might consider cooking hotter. But hey, it's a lot quicker than cooking the pork butt whole. Let's remove our pieces. Perfectly tender pork. But Sal, what about charcoal consumption? I did have to refill the basket once during the cook, and I'm going to do it again for this next step. Let's cover and then put away for a bit while we get this grill ready for some searing action. Let's rearrange our fire baskets. Add more charcoal. Drop in our dripping griddle. Add some our consommé. Drop in our pork chunks and get our sear. The sear is super important. The seared little bits make for a great, delicious bite. These won't take very long. Once seared nicely, let's rotate our pan over to the indirect zone. We don't want to burn these. Let's take our meat off and chop it up. Next, let's build our tacos. Drop in our meat. I'm being pretty generous with the meat filling here. We need cilantro, onion, and some of our awesome red salsa. Let's plate it up. This basket looks awesome. All right, let's give it a taste.
I've been waiting for this one. That's terrific. This is really good. These aren't carnitas, but they're definitely delicious. Pork tacos, do them. Now, if you don't want to try this, I got a carne asada recipe up there and a link, so check it out.